One of the main intentions for going to South America was to better learn Spanish. Also, I had since I was a young boy, just beyond an infant, wanted to visit. We lived in the country of Panama for over 2 years, and I knew, just beyond where we visited, through the thick jungle, a lawless prohibitive place called the Darien Gap, was South America. I was intrigued by what it might be like, and ever since wanted to see it. I had 2 years of Spanish in high school and 2 years in college, but did not speak or understand it as well as I would have liked. I understood the grammar and could write decently. Argentina has long been on my radar as a place I wanted to go. I suppose it was Buenos Aires of the early 20th century that drew me to it. It stood out in Latin America and was one of the wealthiest countries in the world then. The architecture there was similar to Paris, and there was an elegance to their people. Argentines have a flair. It has been called the Paris of South America, but really it is the Paris of the Americas. Living is an art in Buenos Aires, much like it is in Paris. Most of the rest of the world takes a more practical approach, but an Argentine flair is different. It is different in how they think, live, design their city, encourage the arts. Dance, of course, is big, as is music and drama. I appreciated their literature. I realized those earlier in my lineage, coming from Poland or Lithuania, a generation, 2 or 3 before my father, certainly must have considered Argentina just as much as the U.S. as the place to migrate. Many Europeans landed there at the same time their own countrymen were coming to the U.S. What I wanted to do in Buenos Aires was to have a one-on-one teacher for 8 hours a day and to stay with a family who didn't speak English. I then approached the Spanish department of the university I graduated from and asked if they had any instructors who were from Argentina. They gave me one. I approached her, and she was excited about my intentions. She told me she would look into this and get back to me. I received a call from her a couple of days later, and she invited me over to dinner. There, I met her husband, who had recently completed his PhD in physics from MIT. His mother had been in cabinets for 2 or 3 Argentine presidents. She was retired, but was willing to instruct me. In addition to Spanish, she would teach me political theory and political history of Argentina, all in Spanish. While in Buenos Aires, I would study Spanish 12 hours a day. The Spanish instructor at my university arranged for me to stay with her parents, who did not speak a word of English. It was set. I then started to better organize my trip. I would begin by flying to Lima, Peru. From there, I would travel down the coast a few hundred miles, or about 450 kilometers, to almost Chile to see the Nazca lines, created between 2,500 and 1,500 years ago, which were very large drawings of animals, men, plants, trees, geometric shapes, and perfectly straight linear lines running long distances. The shapes can be up to a few hundred yards or meters long. The straight lines total 800 miles or 1,300 kilometers. There are multiple purposes for these, including religion, directions, calendars, and others. Much of all of this to this day is not understood. Each of these could only be seen from the air or surrounding hills. There is nothing on earth that compares to these. There are ongoing and frequent discoveries of unknown drawings covering the landscape. Upon returning to Lima, I would stay a couple of days, then head up north to Cordillera Blanca. the highest part of the Peruvian Andes, to do some mountain climbing and hiking. Lima served as my hub for Peru, which was convenient, as that is where one of the offices of the South American Explorers Club was located. This is an organization which helps and gathers information for archaeologists, anthropologists, sociologists, journalists, biologists, political scientists, writers, geographers, and filmmakers, all gathering information on South America. It also encourages networking among its members. The organization, which also had offices in the U.S., was invaluable in helping me prepare for the trip. I would then fly to Cusco, next to the former capital of the Incas, and from there see a number of Inca ruins and hike a couple hundred miles on the Inca trails, including to Machu Picchu. From Cusco, I would travel to La Paz, Bolivia, about 400 miles or 600 kilometers to the south. I would first stop at the city of Puno and Lake Titicaca, which I had read about for various reasons as a child. The Inca believed the original Inca came from this lake. From La Paz, I would take the train across the Altiplano, Plateau, and Atacama Desert, both spectacular and unique regions of the world. The train would stop in Arica, the northernmost city in Chile. From there, I would continue south for several hundred miles along the coast, then across the Chile, Argentina Andes to the city of Salta in the far north of Argentina. From Salta, I would see some of the other cities in northwestern Argentina and continue to Buenos Aires, over 1,000 miles or 1,600 kilometers away. I was to stay in Buenos Aires for 2 to 3 months, then to travel all over Argentina and Chile, both large countries. This would include the far south, about 500 miles or 800 kilometers from Antarctica. I would then travel on to Uruguay, Paraguay, and Brazil. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe and like, as this is how YouTube decides to send it on to others. Have a great day, and see you in the next episode.